Well, hello, one and all. I am Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. Give me a follow. Drop me a line there whenever. I've been reading a bunch of your YouTube comments as well, and this podcast / video seems to really be taking off. So I appreciate it. Keep spreading the word if you would. Yesterday, we did a very nerdy deep dive into the Steelers defense. Regular season, 17 games. And I'm going to continue that today. It's probably going to be a 3-parter. I've got so many notes. But here we go. The Steelers had the highest percentage, 68%, of single high coverage in the league. That could be cover 1, that could be cover 3, but a single high safety, closed safety, Minkah, obviously. When they employed too high coverage, with an open middle of the field, they allowed 6.6 yards per dropback. Only the Patriots, Panthers, and Colts were worse. So they were good with single high. So I'm not saying this is even like a bad stat. They were bad with a cover 2 shell. I don't know situationally. I'd have to really dig into when they did that. I'm sure some of it is a little misleading in that it's 3rd and 12, and we allowed 6.6 yards per that drop back. Well, we still got off the field. We didn't allow the bomb over the top, but I will say a variety more of coverages is something they definitely need to explore. But Minkah being the deep middle fielder, a lot of you have asked me over the year, Minkah had a bad year. That's a good reflection of how strong he is. When your pass defense is like the bottom of the league when you're playing too high, but it's therefore one of the better ones in the league when you're playing single high, just shows the value of a great center fielder type safety, which he is. 8.1 of pass attempts against the Steelers resulted in explosive plays. Only 7 defenses were better. They only allowed 3 touchdowns off explosive receptions. That tied the Jets for lowest in the league. So even though they're not playing a high percentage of too high safeties, they're still not giving up explosives. Minkah. And they're a good tackling defense. Well, that didn't show up at the end of the season, especially against the run. But they're pretty good run after the catch, tackling the catch, all in all, for over the course of the 17-game year, folks. We know how takeaway dependent and how good this team is with taking the football away, the defense. But their 33 takeaways tied Minnesota for the league lead, which everyone talks about Flores. Never should let Flores leave. And I get that. I think Flores is awesome. And he creates turnovers. Well, the Steelers had the same number as him. But only 5 of those 33 takeaways came over the last 4 games. It's a little too takeaway dependent as a football team, but it's also a little bit of bad luck too. There were a lot of, if you remember in those games, there were a lot of balls on the ground that they didn't pick up, Only the Vikings and Texans had more than the Steelers' 17 interceptions, and the Steelers and Buffalo tied for league lead in fumble recoveries with 16. A lot of that, I think, are strip sacks too, by the way. 2.9% of pass attempts against the Steelers resulted in an interception. Only the Vikings, Texans, and Packers were better. Clearly, that's one of the best things this defense does. Clearly, is take the football away. I mean, they're as good as anyone in the league at it. The Steelers' 76 pass breakups, PBUs, 8th most. But this is what I love. Their 21 batted passes at the line of scrimmage led the NFL. I bet that doesn't shock you if you watch Steelers games. Cam Hayward has become a J.J. Watt level SWAT master. And TJ ain't too shabby either. And to just put a little bow on this, they were second only to the Chiefs in batted passes at the line of scrimmage a year ago. So over the course of the last 2 seasons, they're swatting down passes at a ridiculous rate. Really something they do well. The Steelers' opponents, we always talk about, man, Steelers got to use more play action. Ben hated play action, blah, blah, blah. Well, Steelers' opponents used play action 18% of the time. Only 5 defenses saw a lower rate of play action. Why do we care about that? My hunch, a lot of these stats I really like, and I said this yesterday, because it tells us what opposing coaches, offensive coordinators, think of the defense. How should I attack this defense? Well, a lot of teams want to run play action more than 18% of the time. But I think they were a little wary of longer developing plays. Can our offensive linemen hold up? That's my take on it. And along those lines, their opponents used motion only 42% of the time. The Colts and Bengals are the only defenses that saw a lower rate of pre-snap motion. Now, that one's not necessarily a protection thing, but I can't quite wrap my head around that one, but I do think it's telling that you're at the top of the league in that. 9.3 of the pass attempts against the Steelers were attempted 20 or more air yards downfield. Only 7 defenses saw more, or, a lower percentage. So teams did not attack this team deep very often. Again, I think that's protection. I think that's Minkah. The Steelers defense faced an average depth of target of 7.2 yards. Only 8 defenses saw a lower depth of target. So they do not want to hold the football against the Steelers. They only allowed just 17 completions of 20 or more air yards. Only the Titans and Packers had fewer. And the defense only allowed 2 touchdowns on such passes, the lowest in the league. So when people did attack downfield, it was rarely complete, and there was only 2 times it was a touchdown all year. 2.7% of pass attempts against the Steelers were deemed throwaways. Only 3 teams had a lower rate. That one doesn't quite add up with the pass rush. You would think you'd get a lot of throwaways against this pass rush. I know the sack numbers aren't great, but they have a hard time blocking Cam and Watt and Highsmith, etc. Maybe that's fluky, and someone out there is saying, check, that's a throwaway. Maybe they had a bad day when they did the Steelers. I don't know, but I found that odd that they weren't near the top of the league in that department. That's why I threw it out there. On average against the Steelers, the ball came out of the quarterback's hands in 2.76 seconds. Only 9 defenses faced a quicker time to throw. I actually thought the Steelers would be in the top 5. And there was several games, the Mahomes game in particular, Rodgers was this way, Burrow, where that number was obscenely low. That the ball, they were almost unsackable because how quickly the ball came out of their hands. My hunch is early in the year, with some lesser quarterbacks, they just can't play that way. They can't process that quickly. So the ball is held a little bit more. And you've played Lamar twice, too. You have some snaps that are 6 seconds. He will hold the ball. That's for sure. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch your games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, let's get into some more of this passing stuff. Pittsburgh blitzed at above average rates on both first downs and second downs. But still, we're only talking 32%, 29%. But just 17% on third downs. So they were slightly above average on both first and second with their blitz rate. But that third down blitz rate is the lowest on third down by any team over the past 2 regular seasons. I think that needs to come up. I just don't think you want to be an outlier one way or the other with that. That again, it's just a little too predictable. I know I'm not getting blitz on third down. I don't think they trusted their corners, not named Porter. Their average time to pressure, how many seconds does it take before each defense records a pressure? was the 8th quickest time to pressure. Again, these are good numbers. Like you're 8th in this department, you're 9th in this department. But I think this group could get to 1, could get to 2 with more aggression, more blitzing, more variety. TJ Watt led the NFL in forced fumbles, 6, and tied for the league lead with 3 strip sacks. He's the only player in history to average a sack or more per divisional game with players that have played 40 games or more. Just a little Watt nugget there that we talked about that when we preview the Browns and the Bengals and the Ravens, that he's like the sack leader against all those teams. But in every division game he's been in, on average, he averages more than a sack a game. That's killing it, man. That's pretty awesome. Speaking of Hayward, first defensive tackle since 2017 to record 10 or more pass defenses and 10 or more tackles for loss in a season. We talked about him swatting the ball down, which is incredible. But his run defense numbers are bonkers. The tape that he's been putting out is insane. High level player. And we're just going to end on that with Captain Cam. What a tremendous season he's had. Hopefully he can keep it up for another 2 years or so. Groom maybe a first-round defensive lineman in the process to hand that mantle over to. Expecting more from Benton too, in a good way. I'm not like, oh, he's so disappointing. But I think he's still taking steps forward as well. Don't know that Ogunjobi will be back, especially if you draft a tackle high. So we'll talk a lot more of that kind of stuff going forward too. I'll probably record another one Friday, so you have it over the weekend to sum up this defensive stuff, unless there is huge news. I know there's a Super Bowl on the horizon, obviously, but we're here to talk Steelers mostly. All right, everyone, take care.